Eric cross-referenced the blackouts with staff movement logs. One name kept appearing: Officer Derek Stone. His badge was used to enter the hallway outside Jessica's cell on every night the feed went down. Eric's mouth went dry. He found that Stone had logged into the camera system's maintenance console using administrator credentials, something that should have been impossible. Eric knew what he had to do. He packaged the evidence and submitted a report to his supervisor. The next morning, his inbox was empty. The report had disappeared. So, Eric made a personal backup and sent it anonymously to a crime reporter. Within 48 hours, the headlines exploded. Pregnant death row inmate found dead, camera feed missing. Public outrage followed, and the prison silence was no longer an option. Internal Affairs was forced to act. They found that Stone, who had worked the night shift for 9 years without a hiccup, had a history of dismissed misconduct complaints from other female inmates. They also found that he had accessed secured zones more than 40 times without authorization. The maintenance console login couldn't be ignored. The IT team audited the server and confirmed Eric's fears. The camera feed was manually disabled. The digital fingerprints led straight to Stone. But another name appeared in the logs: Dr. Ethan Cole. Cole had accessed Jessica's medical file 3 times in the middle of the night. Investigators then pulled her prescription records. 5 weeks before she was found pregnant, Cole had added a second compound to her sedative, one that could render someone completely unconscious at high doses. Jessica had been ingesting it every night, unaware. The picture was now clear. Derek Stone disabled the cameras. Ethan Cole drugged her. Trapped between them, Jessica had no idea what was being done to her. The night shift had become their playground. Public pressure mounted, and an independent medical review was authorized. The autopsy this time was not rushed. The toxicology panel revealed the presence of digitalis, a deadly poison that mimics sudden cardiac arrest. Investigators found a handwritten note in Dr. Cole's logs: add cardiac support to balance dose. The contents of her medication had been swapped. The evidence was overwhelming. When confronted, Cole refused to speak. Stone, meanwhile, insisted he was following orders. But the footage of him disabling the camera and walking toward her cell was undeniable. Stone was arrested on charges of evidence tampering and sexual assault. Cole followed, charged with reckless endangerment and murder. No jury bought their excuses. Not after the pregnancy, not after the footage, not after Jessica's haunting words. She hadn't been dreaming. She had been drugged, assaulted, and poisoned. The case became national news. The warden was placed on leave, and the governor issued a statement promising a full review. Jessica's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, citing systemic abuse. A former psychologist testified that her concerns about Jessica's treatment had been ignored, echoing a chilling sentiment. In here, speaking up gets you fired. The civil case ended in a settlement, and the money was used to create a legal fund for other female inmates. At their final sentencing, Cole was given 45 years. Stone received a life sentence. The judge spoke directly to them. You took advantage of a powerless human being, and you did it from a place of trust. Jessica's story began to fade from the headlines, but it never truly went away. An audit of her personal effects uncovered a sealed envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with her handwriting. It was a letter she had written to be mailed upon her release, a day that never came. I don't know what's happening to me, she wrote. I feel disconnected. Sometimes I dream I'm not alone, but when I open my eyes, I forget. I'm not sure if I'm losing my mind or if someone is doing something to me. Either way, if something happens to me, it's not by choice. Please believe that. Please don't let it end like this. The letter was never sent. It sat in a drawer, unheard, while she was violated and silenced. But when a journalist read her words on national television, everyone finally understood. Jessica knew something was wrong, and that knowledge was all she had left to fight with. She didn't get to live, but she was believed in the end. Her death sparked change, and the letter she never mailed became a warning to every prison, every guard, and every doctor. We tell her story not to reopen wounds, but to keep her voice alive, to remind people that behind every locked door is a human being. And if this is your first time here, subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the only justice left is to tell the truth. Jessica Reynolds, a 30-year-old on death row in Texas, was counting the days until her execution. Her crime, a brutal, jealous murder of her boyfriend that had shocked the nation, not just for its violence, but for her striking beauty. But the worst part of her story wasn't her crime. Not even close. 3 years into her solitary confinement, in a cell under constant surveillance with no visitors and no physical contact, something impossible happened. She became pregnant. It sounds unbelievable. A death row inmate, isolated, yet somehow expecting a child. The discovery came during a routine checkup. The nurse thought the test was a mistake. She ran it again. Positive. The chief physician confirmed it. Jessica was 8 weeks pregnant. The entire prison system ground to a halt. No one could explain it. There were no gaps in security. Every hallway had keycard access. Every cell had its own live streaming camera. Every minute was logged. When questioned, Jessica seemed dazed, confused. Her voice barely a whisper. She murmured, "Every night I dream that someone's touching me." A chill ran through the room. 3 days later, she was dead. No struggle, no sound. An officer found her at 6:12 a.m., curled on the floor, breathless and still. The prison doctor declared the cause of death as sudden cardiac arrest, blaming psychological shock and depression. Desperate to avoid bad press, the prison rushed the autopsy, filing the case away as a tragic but natural death. Before her incarceration, Jessica Rivers was a woman people couldn't help but stare at. She had thick, dark hair and eyes the color of forest glass. She didn't have to be loud. Silence followed her. But her beauty couldn't save her after she was convicted of stabbing her boyfriend 34 times. The jury's verdict was swift: death. For 3 years, Jessica lived in the solitary wing of St. Alor State Prison. Her cell, a windowless box with concrete walls, a single bed, and an hour of recreation in a small cage each day, was a place of cold, efficient containment. Life was a monotonous routine of waking up, eating, and waiting. Jessica kept to herself, refusing group therapy and chaplain visits. The only person she interacted with regularly was her psychiatrist, Dr. Ethan Cole. Calm and soft-spoken, Dr. Cole was responsible for managing her clinical depression. But something went wrong. 6 months into her sentence, Dr. Cole prescribed a sedative to help Jessica sleep. It was approved and logged, but no one ever checked the contents. Why would they? The pharmacy was the prison's own, and Dr. Cole had a clean record of 22 years. But he wasn't the only one with access. There was also Officer Derek Stone, a 46-year-old night shift supervisor with a military background and a reputation for being strict but reliable. He volunteered for every overnight shift in the solitary wing, a place most guards avoided. Stone said the quiet helped him think. He and Dr. Cole were the only people who entered Jessica's section in her final months. And no one was watching them because everyone assumed the system worked. But it didn't. Not always. And not at night. Other inmates had complained of strange noises, crying, begging, from the isolation block, but guards dismissed them as hallucinations. Jessica never reported anything. Maybe she didn't know what was happening, or maybe she knew no one would believe her. Still, in the weeks before her death, staff noticed changes. She was losing weight, looking exhausted. One day, she fell asleep during a checkup, something that had never happened before. When asked if she was okay, she simply said, "The meds make my dreams weird." Until the pregnancy test. Until her haunting words. Until her body was found. The cracks in the system became impossible to ignore. Jessica Reynolds was dead. Found at 6:12 a.m. by Officer Monroe, a veteran guard. Jessica wasn't in her bed. She was on the floor, cold and still. Monroe called for backup, but it was too late. Dr. Ethan Cole pronounced her dead, citing sudden cardiac arrest due to emotional stress. The administration believed she had simply snapped under the weight of her pregnancy. Everything moved fast. Too fast. The body was transferred, a basic autopsy performed, and the report filed away. Case closed. But in the basement, a junior technician named Eric Klein was doing his job. He was archiving surveillance data when he found it, a blank entry. The camera in Jessica's cell had gone offline for 73 minutes. No explanation. He dug deeper and found 14 similar outages over the past 2 months, all in her cell, all late at night. The blackouts hadn't been recorded. Someone had manually disabled the camera.